onboarding. So, and these folders and files has been created for me by Flutter. So under my lib folder, I have my main.dat. This is responsible for running our Flutter application. I also have my POSPEC file. This is where we'll be storing our dependencies and our packages. So right now, our assets, I'm going to create a new folder for our assets folder. So assets, this is where we are going to be storing our SVG files. So assets, inside my assets, I'm going to be creating another folder called IMG. That's where my SVG files will be stored in. So I'm going to import this into that folder. So I've done that. So also let me start my simulator while that is running. So let's also add we are going to be needing the SVG file. So we are going to be importing packages for this. So let's go to our web browser. So SVG, Flutter. So while that is loading, okay. So installing. So we just copy this under dependencies. We are going to paste this under our dependencies. So go to your POPSPEC file. So under Cupertino icons, place this which you just copied. So we also need the SVG. This also need a package for this, our smooth page indicator. So we are going to also go to our web browser, smooth page indicator, Flutter. So we are going to also install this. Installing. Just click on installing. So scroll down. And we are going to copy that. Then paste under our Cupertino icons. Under our Flutter SVG. Yes. So we can always remove this. So Flutter will get the most recent version that is compatible with our Flutter version. So right now I'm using Flutter 2.10.3. So under my lib folder, I also want to be creating some folders which I'm going to be needing, like the screen folder and also our widgets. Widgets is where we'll be storing the codes we are going to be reusing. Let me start my simulator. So let me create a new folder called screens. So under screens, we are going to be creating a new file called onboarding screen. It is going to be responsible for showing the onboarding screen. So under the screens folder again, I'm still going to be creating another screen called home screen. Home_screen.dat. That is the programming language we are using. So home screen is going to be a stateless widget because we are not managing any state. So home screen. So I'm going to import our material.dat package, which I've just done. So we are going to be returning a scaffold. So for now, let's just give it body. So inside our body, we want to have a text widget. So we call it home page. Let's wrap this with a center widget. Okay. So let's go back to our onboarding screen. So this will be this will be our onboarding screen. So let's give it a stateless widget. So onboarding screen. So let's import our material.dat package. Okay, so we are going to be returning a scaffold. We are going to be returning the scaffold. So let's go back again to our assets, our pop spec file. So in order for us to be able to use this our image, SVG images, the SVG files, we have to go to this place where you see assets, uncomment this, then you have to specify it, that's assets /img/ so this will be able to access our folder here. So you can always click on this here to get your pub get. So let me check my simulator. So right now, this by default, this is my main.dat code. This is the code that is written in my main.dat file. So I always like to start afresh. So what I'm going to be doing right now is that I'm going to be clearing all this boilerplate code that Flutter provides for us. So from here, so let me just clear all this. So we're going to be clearing all the everything there. Okay, so right now it's showing a black screen. So debug show check boot matter. I want to remove this debug here, so I'll set that to false. So our home will be our onboarding screen. That's the first screen you see. So right now on our onboarding screen, we just have a blank page, which is this scaffold. Let's give it a body. So it's going to have a page view. So and inside of the page we are going to be having children. So inside of the children, so let's look at our design again. So right here now we have our SVG image. We have a title, subtitle, and our smooth page indicator. Then this, we also have our next and back button. So what we are going to do next is we're going to start creating this. This is our design here, which we can see here. So what we are going to first do, inside of our page view, we are going to be creating, this is going to be a column. So what we'll do next is, so let me share my simulator. Inside of our column, we want to have column 2 is also going to be taking children. So you can always see the different list of widgets you can always add. Okay, so let's click on children. So inside of our children now, we want to start building our code. So let's start. So inside of our children now, we want to import that our package, which we want to use that our SVG package we just import, which we added to our pop spec. So we have xvg picture.assets. So we click on that because these are SVG files. You can see that. So SVG. So you put it in quotes because we want to reference this. Okay, so right click, copy relative path, then paste. So you can see our image file is already showing here. So let's make this look more readable. Okay, so the next thing we need to add is, I want to make this center. So go to main axis alignment, dot center. You can see it's also bringing out the options here. So you can see now, right now, this image has been centered. So the next thing we have is this our title field. The title. So what we want to do right now is we want to give it some spacing, because you can see we have some spacing there. So next thing, we are going to use a size box. All this is still going to be inside our children. It's still inside the children of the column. So we'll give it a cost size box, constant size box of height. So let's say, okay, let me share my of heights. Let's give it an height of, let's say for example 64 or 50. Let's say 50. So it will have a text widget. So our text feed we want to have, okay, let's say learn UI UX. Learn UI UX design. So right now what we want to do is we want to wrap this inside, we want to wrap this our text feed inside a container. While we are wrapping inside, we can give it some padding, wrap with container. So padding is just more of like giving it some spacing, at least padding. So we want it to be, should have spacing between, should not be touching, because if the text is a long field, you should not be touching these edges here. So what we do is give it a padding of cost means constant, so it only have to be rebuilding the code every time. It makes our code more easier to read. So give it horizontally, yes, so give it 25 pixels. Actually it takes in a double, but you can also type it like this. So the next thing you want to do is you want to give it some styling. So you give it style, that's colors.black, or it's already black, but it depends. In, for example, if you want to change the color to maybe blue, you can always do that. Okay, colors dots, and we give it a font weight. So sorry, I meant to have declared this. Okay, style, you're taking it widget or called text style. Any error you always get into always indicates. So that's one good thing. So the text type, we are going to be giving it a, let's say, font size of 22, font weight of, let's say, font weight dot bold. So what else again do we need to give it? You can see it's at least it's coming up now. So we say we've given it a font weight of bold, font size 22. Let me make this easier to read. So cost. Oh, okay. Okay, so let's move on to the subtitle. So we're also going to be giving it, since here too we have some spacing, so we'll give it a, let's just copy this code here, copy everything. So this is for our subtitle. So I'm going to be changing the, let me show my screen. I'm going to be changing the size box ID spacing to 24. I'm going to be removing the bold. We don't need to make that bold. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, font size, no, that will be too big, so let's remove that. What I've done before now is I've copied. Okay, let me just copy this. So I'm going to be copying and pasting this here. Right now we can see it now, it's not touching the edges. So once I zoom and remove the padding right now. So see, once I remove the padding, you can see it's starting from here. It's not giving it space. So that's the essence of giving it padding. So I think this is looking good now. Okay. So this looks okay. Basically, style. So what we can do next is we can make the color. Let's change the color to gray. Okay, so it looks like our design, what we have here. Okay. So what's the next thing we want to do? Okay, also instead of rewriting it like this, since we are going to be reusing this code for other pages, what we can just do is we're going to be copying all what we have here from the column. I'm going to copy everything so you cut. So once you cut it to be like you have a blank screen. So we go back to, we are going to be creating a new folder called widgets. So this is where we are storing the codes we are going to be reusing. So inside our widgets, we are going to be having a new file called onboarding.dat. So this is going to be a stateless widget. We are not managing any state. No, sorry, this is going to be a widget. Just widget. So widget onboarding. So this we are here. What we are doing here is we are using this object-oriented programming. What we are doing here. So we are going to be requiring an image. Okay. We are going to be requiring an image. So required. Small letters, required image. And the next one is, okay, let's call the language UX design. Required, it's going to be a string. Title. It's going to also required subtitle. It's going to take a string. So we are going to be returning, that's our column. So SVG picture. So right now, instead of us coding it like this, what we just change is we just input that our image there, which we have. So we have to import our SVG package. So learn UI UX design. So we have to remove this cost. If not, I have to remove that because since this is not going to be a constant value. So that will be our title. So this also here, we have to remove the cost value here. This is going to be our, so let's So you won't have to put it in string again since we've declared it up here. So let's this will be our subtitle. So this const. So once we've done that, okay, so we are good to go. So okay, yeah, let me just rename this. So okay. So the next thing we are going to be doing now is we are going to be going back again to our onboarding screen. So that's method that widget we just built. Now we can call it here. So it's called onboarding. So it's going to be taking. Let's import this first of all. Widgets, yes. So that widget there is going to be taken. We declared image. So let me show you something here. So onboarding. So right now you can see it's going. These are the required fields there. We are going to be declaring an image, subtitle, then title. So you can always arrange them anyhow. So but how I'm going to do that now, I'm going to start with the title. Hold on, let me just start with the image since that's what we have here. But you can always rearrange. Any doesn't mean arrangement doesn't mean. So the image. So let me copy the UI UX design, that's product design. Copy relative. You right click, copy relative part, then you paste the link in quotes. Put your cover. And the next one is title. So blend UI UX design. So the next is subtitle. So the subtitle is going to have, okay, let me copy this. So right now, if you notice now, you can see this has been created. So I'm going to duplicate this. So right now, you will see we have different pages. So let me just real quick. So I'll just do right now. Just fill in the default values for all this. Okay, then web development. So subtitle. Okay. So what I'm just doing basically is just copying and pasting values. So the next one, line graphics design. Just copying and replacing these values. So it remains one more. We'll learn mobile development. So let me just copy this. So learn mobile app development. that's basically what I just did now. Okay, so the next, okay, the image, copy relative path. So I'm working on the image now. So let's see what we've done. Mention graphic, you can see. So right now we're on track, so it's not even touching. So okay, the next thing we want to build is, let's look at our design. So we want this our smooth page indicator. So what we are going to do right now is, let's go back again to our onboarding screen. So this is our page view. What we are going to be doing is that we are going to be wrapping it inside a stack. So what we are going to do now is, everything inside is our page view here. We're going to cut. So once we've done that, we're going to declare stack. What stack basically does is, if you want to place a widget on top of themselves, so stack is going to take children. So inside our stack, paste that our page view. I should share my screen. So what we want to do now is, we want to create our smooth page indicator. So that's outside of our page view. What we are going to be doing now is, we are going to be creating that our listing. So we are going to be creating a container. So call it container. Container. So inside our container, we want to, okay, before then, let me just, if I give it an element, let's just give it a child. So what we are basically doing is, all this is basically doing is that, right, giving it the container, in case you want to give it some styling and in order to make our code easier to read. So what I'm going to be doing next is, I'm going to be giving, after I've given it some styling, the next thing we are going to do is, I'm going to call the smooth page indicator. So, okay, child. So right now what we are going to do, okay, before then, the next thing we want to do first of all is, let me first declare our page controller. So under our okay, this is meant to be a stateful widget, not a stateless. So let's convert. Just click here, convert to stateful, because we are going to be changing the states of the state of our class. So right here now, I'm going to be declaring under my extent, under this here, you just come here under your extent keyword here, you create a page controller. So what this basically does is, it keeps track of which page we are on. So I'm going to also type that page controller. So let's call controller a variable name. So this is what we'll be using to reference our page controller. So this basically, what this basically does is keeps track on which page we are on. So I'm also going to create another a boolean to keep track if we're on the last page. Now we'll take a boolean. So on last page, so we'll set it to false. So we're still going to reference this later. So the next thing we're going to do is, first of all, this is our smooth page indicator. We'll come down back to this first. So let's do this. Let's give it our stack. Let's wrap our stack inside a container so we can give it a bottom padding. Wrap its container, and we give it a padding of const edge insets dot only. So bottom, at the bottom, we want to make it, let's give it 80. So what this basically does is gives it a padding. Yeah, so I'm going to explain that later, where we are going to be adding our nest and back button. So inside of our page view, we want to reference that our controllers, our page controller, so underscore controller. So on page change, once you change the page, we want to reference it by the index. So index set state. So set it, if it's on the last page, we want it to equals index and equals last page. So we know we start counting from 0, so that's going to be 3, and we have 4 pages. Okay, so that's that. We've already referenced the. So back to this. So what we want to do now is we want to start building. So we're going to wrap our smooth page indicator. Sorry, smooth page indicator. So it's also going to be having a controller. Now to make this easier to read. So smooth page indicator. So but in order to make this easier, so let me just wrap this our smooth page indicator with a row. So a row we always have children. So main axis alignment. So let's make it center. That'll be here. In axis alignment dot center. So it's also giving us the option there. So okay, why this is still showing, why this our smooth page indicator is still showing, because we still have some required parameters. See controller counts. So let's continue. So give it a count of, so that's 4 pages. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4. So the next thing we need to do is we need to specify the dot clicked. So as we said, index. So we can always use this since we are referencing to just this one line of code. Dot animate to page. So animate to page. Okay, let me just break this down so it will be easier to read. So then the index, then the duration, we have to set the duration. In milliseconds. So that's going to be 5, let's set it to 500 milliseconds. Okay. So then the curve. So curve is on how it's transitions. Curves dot is in. Okay. So right now we can even notice we are not seeing it. So let's give this our container an alignment. Alignment. So that will be alignment dot 0, 0.9. So right now you see it's showing now. We are able to see this our smooth page indicator. So what this alignment does is that it takes value. It's between 1 and -1. Positive numbers are towards the bottom and vice versa. What I just mean by that is, okay, for example, let's say this is 0.7. So you can see it's moving up, or 0.4, and see where it's moving. So I think we should just leave it at 0.9. So that's for that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to build our, okay, let's look at the design. So we want to build this. So we are going to be giving it a bottom sheet. So what we are going to do next is we're going to be building a bottom sheet. Okay. So in order to do that, under its bottom sheet. So inside of our bottom sheet, we want to be designing this. So let me share back my screen. Okay. So the next thing we are going to be doing now is we're going to be creating a row. So let's also wrap our row inside the container and give it height of 80. Then padding of costs edge insets dot symmetric. To horizontally. Okay, so let's go on to build our row. So we're going to be using elevated button. It's going to have a child of text. Then it's also going to have an unpressed method. Unpressed, okay. So the next thing we're going to be doing, first of all, okay, this you can see our back buttons already appearing here. So the next thing we're going to be doing right now is Let's select the onPress method first of all. Let's create that. Okay. Controller. So controller dot that's for back. So previous, so you can always see the different options that are here. Or for this, we are going to be using previous page. So click on, you set the duration. So the duration is going to be also in milliseconds. So let me just make this easier to read. Const duration milliseconds, so 500. So okay, we're also going to add the curves. Curves.isIn. So in order, just let's copy. Okay, let's copy this also from elevated button. Let's do for the next. So next, okay, so next is going to be dot next page, not previous page. So we can always, since we can always get the, so once you click on that, it show you okay. We want to know which one is the next. So we want to know the code to use for next page, so that's why I did that. So I can scroll down. So next page. So right now, we want to give it, we want to style it because this is not looking too nice. Or before then, let's go back to our row. Let's give it some spacing. So main axis alignments, so that will be space between. So you can see it's giving it some spacing. So okay, once we must have given it this spacing, so the next thing we want to do is, okay, we want to style these buttons, this elevated button. So we have what we call style. So that will be elevated button, dot style from. So we want to give it a padding. So const edge insets dot all. No, symmetric. Then horizontal. So we're giving it, so let's say 30. So you can see how it's got expanded here. So the next thing you also want to do is you want to change that color. So click on Prami, colors dot gray dot shade 300. Let's so you can see, so they are always different. You can always change the shade color. So on Prami, so that will be colors dot gray. Can see this also has been changed. I always play around with the different color codes. So this year I want this, at least this padding here to at least be bigger than this. So let me just change the code to 55. So you can see as I change it to 55, you can see it's got expanded. So let's also do that for the next. Let's copy this. So copy the styling. Or we can always just play around with this. Okay. What I just need, okay. Let me comment this out. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is, okay. That's also the next. Let's look at the design. Okay, we've done this, we've done that. So we need this skip. So we need to put that our skip there also. So what we're going to do in order to include our skip, so let's go back again to our onboarding screen. So still inside of our stack, we create another container. So I'm just typing this code out manually, so for people that want to follow along, so I don't want to be copying and pasting. So okay, before we give it container, let's just give it a child. So let me share my screen also. So child, so we are going to give it a text button. So the text button is also going to be having a child of text. Then it's also going to be having a method called onPressed. So once we press that, we want it to, okay. We want to redirect to want it to jump to the last page. Jump to page. So the last page is 3, okay. So we're going to be giving this the container padding. So edge insets dot only. Because even notice, you can see this where you can see where this skip is showing this place here. Or we don't want it there, want it to show like around this side. So we're going to be giving it dot only. So we are going to change it to the right. So let's say right 25 pixels. Okay, 25. Then also let's give it a top. Of 35. So right now. Okay, first of all, let me just comment this out first before let me give it alignment. So once you give it alignment, we want it to align to the top right corner. So alignment dot top right. So you can see it's up here, but we don't want it up here. So that's when this padding I'll uncomment it. So you can see where it is now. You can see where it's showing now. So it's looking nice. So right now, if you click on your smooth page indicator, you are able to move. It's moving. You can also click on next too. It's also moving back. So right now, I want it that if it's on the last page, instead of it still showing this back and next, what I want to do is right now is that I want it to show that okay, we're on the last page. So instead, it will just show maybe like a get started button. So in order to do that, so this is what we're going to do. So okay, all this here you can just put const. Always do that. So let's look at our design again. Okay, so I think we've gotten the UI. Okay. So it's looking okay. So we want to also change the effect. We want this to also look to expand. This is our smooth page. Okay, we want this to be looking expanded. So let's go back to our onboarding screen. So under our smooth page indicator, so we are going to be adding effects. So let me also show my screen. Effects. So we're expanding dots effects. So you can see now, right now, that's expanded. So you can always change the color, active color, active.color. So let's say colors dots blue dots, and give it a shade. So we give it a shade of 300. You can always change the color. And that's for that. At least it's looking nice. Okay, so back to what I said before. So we want to know if we're on the last page. So we go back to this, our bottom sheet. So if you remember, we've created under our states, we've created this to keep track if we are on the last page. So let's copy this, our variable name. So let's now go down to our bottom sheets and paste this. So if we're on the last page, so we have to write a function that okay, if we're on the last page, do this. So what I'm going to be doing next is on last page, I'm going to be creating a text button. So if it's on last page, if true, so what this means is that if it's true, do this text button. So let me just move to the last page first of all. So the text button is going to have a child called get started. Oh, sorry, a text widget. So get started. So let me just format this. It looks much nicer. Okay. So it's also going to have an unpressed function. Okay. So so if this is true, what it's going to do next is going to show the container. So right now you can see our get started. So what basically this code does is that if it's on last page, it will show this text button. If not, it will just still show our container. So like now, for example, once I go back, we can see our back and next. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to be styling. Okay, let me go back to the last page. So this get started, I'm going to be styling that text button. So style text button, text button dot style from, so style from, then I'm going to be giving it a shape. So let's say shape. So rounded rectangular. Okay, rounded rectangle border. So inside our rounded rectangular border, I'm going to be giving it a border radius. Border radius dot circular. So border radius dot circular. Okay. So let me just give it a, let's say 5. Let's just say, or 6. So the next thing, I'm going to be giving it a primary color. I'm going to be changing it from that blue. So that will be colors.white. Let me give it white. So background color, colors dot blue dot shade of 700. So the minimum size, let's change this to const size dot from height. So right now it's occupying the height which I've declared before. It's occupying the at bottom sheets, occupying everything here in the bottom sheets. So okay, let's go back to the unpressed method. So once we get to this get started, I will click on unpressed. So it's want us to redirect us back to the home page. So this get started. Let me increase that font size. It's too small. So style, text style. So font size. So I'm giving it a size of, let's say 24. So okay, on the unpressed, so I'm giving it, so that's navigator dot push. Okay, no, navigator dot off context. Let's get the context first. Dot push replacement. So material page route builder. That's what we're going to be using. Material page routes. So it will take in builder, and then the context. So we are going to be redirecting back to our home page. No, home screen. It's home screen. That's the name of the class. So we are going to now be closing the, okay. Let's close this. So right now what this basically does is that once we click on this get started to redirect us back to our home screen. So on our home screen now, let's create an icon button. So what that does is that once we are on our home screen here, so once we click on the icon button, we can always log out. So let's add an app bar. So inside of our app bar, we're going to be giving it a app bar, then actions. Okay, so icon button. Okay, well, before then it's okay, let's just look at this. So next, so once I click on get started, so it gets on the home page. So the icon button, now let me just do that so we can go back to our onboarding screen. Icons dot logout. So we're going to be having on pressed function too. So on pressed, so let me just copy this navigator dot. Let me copy this function which I've declared here. So go back to our home screen. So I'm going to be changing it back to our onboarding screen. So if you notice, you can see this icon here, icons.logout. So on onboarding screen. So let me import that package. Import the library, sorry. So const. So right now that's it. That's just the code. What I just did here, I added the body. Okay. So that's that. So once I click on logout now, it takes me back to the home screen. So I can slide. So it shows me. Once I click on skip, gets to the end menu. So that's all for this tutorial. I'll leave a link to the source code and asset file down below.